Hi, Lucy.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
You too.
So, just to recap from where we left off last time, we've had a couple of calls, couple of conversations, and we're tracking your individuation journey as you're making some really big changes in your life, right? You
Yeah,
had decided to move and you got a new job that I think you were about to start when we spoke last time.
yeah, yeah.
And also, you left a relationship of 24 years. And so, I wanted to check in and see how you are, how you are feeling internally, and what's happening externally also with the process as you move through these changes.
Right. So I know that the last time we spoke was almost pretty well a month ago now, I think.
Yeah.
And I got quite emotional in our talk about how I was feeling about leaving my relationship and my dog and um and I'm noticing that I'm not as emotional
Mm.
now. So I'm working into my seventh week of being here
Uh-huh.
now. And and so I'm starting to feel that this is familiar and this is the norm now more. But I it, it's so externally a lot of things have become familiar where I was getting lost all the time. I was always on the wrong street and I wasn't following Google Maps very clearly. I was sort of walking around in a daze, I guess. So that has passed, which
Great.
is nice. But I'm still very closed off.
Mm.
I don't look at people on the street. I walk around with my earbuds in, listening to stories or music. I'm very insulated, and I have very little interest in making eye contact with people or even making that effort.
Uh-huh.
Um, this weekend I have volunteered at the film festival and I have an
Great.
event this weekend. And I'm having trouble getting excited about it and being
Mm.
engaged in socially, even though I'm doing it because I think it's good for me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no problem just staying at home, reading books, sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
doing my own thing and not seeing anybody. But at the same time, I'm also feeling really lonely,
Uh-huh.
isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And this job, I'm probably working for the nicest people I've
Mm.
ever worked for in my entire life.
Wow.
I've had many jobs and I've worked with many people, but it's family run and they are so kind to me.
Mm.
And but I do spend, the nature of the job is that I spend a lot of my time organizing books, whether they be physically, like today I was just reorganizing the whole store and moving books all over the place. And the nature of the business is that there's not a lot of people that actually come into the store. So I'm not interacting with anybody. I'm with books. My whole life is with books.
Mm.
And And so I'm either entering data for the website and finding new materials for curriculum, BC curriculum, or even when I'm working at the book fair, I'm setting up books and sure I help a few people, but teachers really kind of already know what they want.
Uh-huh.
And and so it's the job and it's also very isolating. And then I'm here in a city where I don't know anybody, and I'm kind of going around in an isolated state.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit concerned about that
Uh-huh.
I I'm not connecting with people really at all, except for the one or two women that I work with. Sometimes
Right.
there's two women there,
Yeah.
but that's it. There's no flow. of people coming through the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've decided to apply for more work.
Mm-hmm.
And I will feel absolutely terrible to leave this family. And I know she's put a lot of effort into, um, me being there and the timing it, because she's got a bunch of book fairs coming in the fall and everything. But I'm a bit concerned about my mental well-being if I stay
Right.
there long term, not having a social life outside of
Uh-huh.
work.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had already known people here and I had
Mm-hmm.
a group of people here, this job might be perfect for me, you
Yeah.
know. But so I'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
But
So maybe a type of work where you're interacting with people a little bit more.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that's how you really meet people now and get to know people in this
Mm-hmm.
time, unless you're going to go on dating apps or something like that, which I'm not
Mm.
at all interested in.
Yeah.
But and I've started a book club, and so I've joined one, and my
Mm-hmm.
first session comes up in a couple of weeks,
Oh,
and I'm
great.
super excited about that
That's awesome.
because this is you know, again, it'll be social, and it's a group of people. We've all
Mm-hmm.
read this book, and people who are interested will be only attending. So I'm keen about that.
And it's in
Um,
person. This book
and it's
club
in
is in
person.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's great that you
yeah.
have that coming up. Yeah. But it sounds also like you're really aware of this isolation.
I
Um,
am.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
am.
in some way it feels like you are saying that you don't really want to engage. You're
Yeah,
withdrawn.
so I'm in this very interesting place psychologically and emotionally. I recognize intellectually that I should be more engaged with people.
Mhm.
I think it would be better for my mental health. But at the same time, I'm very happy to be on my own,
Yeah.
you know, and just spend hours and days in between my work schedule. Like sometimes, like this past week, I had 5 days on my own back to back. And I walk around the city a bit, but I don't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a small city,
Yeah.
I've pretty well been everywhere now. Um, and so I don't know if this is just a phase I'm going through and it will evolve naturally or without my making a big effort about it, or if it's something that I need to make an effort to get past.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'll know more as you attune to that and again, listen deeply to what you're needing. Because, yeah, 5 days back to back feels like a lot to be on your own. I mean, I think in some way, this process of death rebirth does require intentional solitude, but then how much solitude does one really need, right?
Yeah.
Where is the line? And especially that you are in a new place, and so maybe finding, what would be the right balance. So I'm glad that you have the book club and that you're volunteering. Um, so at least there are some little anchors appearing
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that social realm. I'm also curious if anything has been coming up into your dreams that you've noticed, or if there's anything you'd like to share from
Yeah.
from
So
those deeper realms within.
yeah, I'm sleeping profoundly well. In a way that I don't think I've ever slept. Even as a child, I was not a good sleeper. I was a very light sleeper. But I have now entered this place, and I sleep so well. And I know I dream deeply, but I was expecting that I would have very active dreams, um, because I've made so much change so
Right.
quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found in the first good good month of being here is that I wasn't aware of dreaming at all. It was like it was a blank slate completely. And I've always had a very rich dream life,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing was happening. I didn't even feel like I'd had a dream, let alone try and
Right.
remember it. Now I'm dreaming in a way that I remember them a little bit more. I'm dreaming a lot about my dog.
Mm.
Um, and and not finding him, like being with him for a little bit and then I lose him. And
Right.
then I spend the dream trying to find him. And then I wake up not finding him.
Mm.
So is that. And I've had a few more dreams about Phyllis. Again, where we're almost literally walking in opposite directions. So
Mm.
that is a pattern that has stayed where that was a pattern of my dreams that had started before I left.
Yeah.
And it was part of my decision to leave, and it was part of um my indication that we were separating and going on different paths
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, emotionally, and that seems to have um maintained
Uh-huh.
itself in the dreams. And we talk a lot. We talk regularly, like every few days we talk. And and I am going to be back in Vancouver in the third week of August. Be my first time back.
Mm.
Um, and I'm staying for a couple of days, and I'll stay with her, and so we're on very good terms that way, which makes things so much more
Yeah.
easier and pleasant. So, but I find that my dream life isn't as vivid as I was expecting it to be,
Mm-hmm.
but my awake life, I find I am very still when I'm by myself. And so I have this stillness where I can just sit and be in a way that I wasn't able to do before, unless I would make myself go into a space to formally meditate,
Mm-hmm.
and then create a place for stillness. Now I can be still in a bus,
Mm-hmm.
like I can be
Yeah.
going to work on a bus and feel a deep sense of stillness.
Mm.
And this is a really new thing for me. And this has been sort of, I would say, in the last 3 weeks. So I can be in an elevator, on the street full of busy people, in a bank, in a lineup, and feel a deep stillness deep
Mm.
within.
Feels very
So
peaceful and centering as you describe that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
that is new for me. And so when I'm with people, which is and actually having conversations, the only time that happens is if I've got an appointment or if I'm at work talking to the woman I work with. Um, I still carry that forward,
Mm-hmm.
that stillness, and I've been really enjoying that.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's
Wonderful.
really good for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and just coming back to what you said about the dreams not being as active as you had expected them to be. Um, I mean, the psyche goes through its own cycles of expansion and contraction. And I also wonder if, because so much energy has been spent in the outside world, like moving,
Mm,
setting up a new home, looking for a job, right? So I
yeah.
wonder if perhaps just the energy is more in the outer and there's that sense of stillness. And so hopefully with that, I mean, it sounds like dreams are starting to trickle back in.
Yeah, they are. And you're right. And I think that when I become more and more familiar with my surroundings,
Yeah.
I don't need to spend so much energy
Hmm.
just, and I'm still getting lost a lot. I find the streets very confusing and the name changes from street. Like you start on one name street and then you're halfway in a block and the name changes in the street.
Hmm.
So I find that really confusing to navigate that,
Uh-huh.
which is why I'm always lost. Um,
Yeah,
and
having to orient to a new environment,
yeah, yeah,
having to literally find your way, your
yeah, it's
in
exhausting.
this new life.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm
Mhm.
sleeping so well. Because
That's
it's so exhausting. I come home and I can feel so frustrated with the hours that I've spent trying to get to a place. And to get to the place, because I've heard interesting things about it, to find that it's actually not that interesting to me.
mm.
So the energy expended and the reward at the end, they just don't balance
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
often.
Mm.
Like the other day, I spent, I was out for 4 hours just to get to Willows Beach because I've heard that it's the only natural sand beach around Victoria. I wanted to see it. It sounded like a cool place. It sounded like a place where you could really spend some time walking the beach and being with the water and the ocean
Mhm.
and everything. And it's like when you're there, it's like 20 minutes of total beach space.
Mm.
That's it. But
So,
it took me 3.5 hours to get there
oh
and back.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So that's disappointing.
yeah. And
Hmm.
there's been a few things like that,
Hmm.
a few things like that. So I'm trying to be patient with the process of getting to know a new place and just feeling unfamiliar and naive, I guess, about
Yeah.
you know, expectations
Hmm.
and and that. But yeah, and I mean, I like my apartment, but I don't love my apartment.
Hmm.
And I will I'm already going to start putting myself onto waiting lists of neighborhoods because now I've got some neighborhoods that I think would be better suited for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but given that I didn't know anything about this city or anywhere, I've landed okay. Like I
Yeah.
really have landed okay. And and the building management is absolutely superb. And I really need to think about that before leaping anywhere else. Because
Hmm.
last week I was sleeping and I'll tell you this story quickly because it was so alarming. And I was dead asleep and it was about 7 in the morning and I got this phone call from a number I didn't know, um, which I don't always pick up, but I did pick up this. And it was this man saying that he was from the General Attorney's Office of Canada in Ontario. He said he was in London, Ontario, and that my accounts have been somebody was frauding me and that my accounts were my Amazon account had been hacked into and that somebody had bought something for $700 using my account and all this kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so I know all these scams exist,
Yeah.
but I was in this state of deep sleep.
Hmm.
He had me so worked up and
Mm.
concerned that in 10 minutes I was dressed and on the street going to my bank to cancel my cards, all this kind of stuff. And then as I was talking to him, he said something odd, which was that he asked me what I was going to say to the bank when I got there because he thought that I should take out all of this cash. And now I
Mm.
was, and it's this like, okay, now my alarm bells are going off,
Yeah.
right? Now I'm fully awake.
Hmm.
Um, And he wanted to know what I was going to say to the bank, and I said I was going to say to the bank the truth, that my accounts have been hacked into and all this. No, 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 he says, you don't say that to the bank. And then I immediately went around to my manager's office, and he was there. And I was able to knock on his window. He saw me. I put my phone on speaker. This guy was still talking. He hung up on him for me, and he intervened, and he said, this is what you need to do. And he was right there for me.
Mm,
And I feel even emotional, like just recounting this, because I just, like, I don't know anybody here. And yet,
yeah. Yeah, it's like you're in an extra vulnerable state right now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like a newborn,
yep,
birthing
yeah,
into this new life.
yeah.
So
And
it's
so,
helpful to have someone there.
yeah, it really was.
Mhm.
And he's such a nice guy, and he made jokes about it, and so I could laugh and just like, oh my God, how did I not pick up on this?
Mm,
And I'm typically way more astute about stuff like that. Um, but not that time.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so it's just I think it's an indication of just how uh vulnerable
Hmm.
I am,
Yeah, you
and
are.
just how it's just not you can you hear me? Because this dog is
Mhm.
barking.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Um and so it's yeah, the vulnerability is a real thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. Being in a
And
new
it's hard
place.
being vulnerable.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel very exposed being vulnerable
Hmm. Yeah,
and raw.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The process that you're moving through, it's that death rebirth strips the old skin away, and it can definitely feel
Yeah.
very raw and very vulnerable. So yeah, being conscious and careful where and how you expose that new
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe
Where-
that's why I'm not rushing to be social at all.
yeah,
I
and
just,
that makes sense. That makes sense to me. That
yeah,
taking some time to ground um, that new life that you're in, but at the same time also not to going into that extreme of complete isolation, right?
yeah, yeah,
Finding a balance of, and it sounds like you're already onto that by looking for other work where maybe you can be
yeah,
more social or talk to people where there are more interactions, and so yeah.
yeah. I think that that would be healthier for me in
Mhm.
the long term. And I think because I'm, even without all of this change going on and everything, I'm really shy. So it's hard for me to just go out and randomly meet people.
Yeah.
So that's why I need to do it in the context of, say, a book club or volunteering. But I
Mhm.
think it's important that my work be much of my social life as well, because it's where I go, it's where I expect to be more extroverted and more out of myself.
Yeah.
But if I have to create that socially and on my own, it's probably not really going to happen for me because I'm just so shy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it can be helpful to have those structures like a book club or a space where you can volunteer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Where it's something that naturally brings people together, so it doesn't feel forced or unnatural in some way, right?
yeah, yeah.
So coming
And it
together over common interests and
exactly.
forming connections that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because otherwise I would like, and the people in this building, they're very nice, but there isn't a social aspect to it.
Hmm.
Like people are very sort of self-contained. They have their own lives. They've got their own social life thing already going on. And so people don't really socialize in this building. Whereas my building in Vancouver, everybody in the building was very social. We
Right,
all knew
right.
one another. We talked to each other in the elevators. Nobody talks to each other in the elevators
Hmm.
here, right?
Yeah,
The complex is very big compared to my building in Vancouver. And so it's not a social building either for me. Like where I live is not social.
yeah,
So, um, yeah,
yeah.
so
Mhm.
I think I have to
Mhm.
make some changes with that.
Yeah, building a new social network,
Yeah,
a new a
yeah,
new a new village, a new web to hold and support you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I've come into Victoria as a newcomer and I have peeled back the first onion layer of of discovering a new place, being in a new home, new people, new work, new bus systems, transportation, everything. Um, and now I'm looking to find like the next layer I can peel.
Yeah.
So it feels very much like peeling an onion
Hmm.
where there's different layers. And so I've now skimmed through the first layer
Hmm.
and feel that I've landed okay and I feel grounded and I can feel my inner stillness.
Hmm.
And now I need to um open up more layers so that I can create a richer life for myself here.
Yeah, makes sense. One step
Yeah.
at a time also, right? One step at a time, because when we spoke last time, it was like just landing and just getting your bearings. And now, okay, now you're there. Now you've gotten to know the city a little bit. And then, okay,
Yeah.
the next layers are unfolding. So the next, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Good to
Yeah.
see you. Hmm.
You too. Always enjoy chatting with you and
Hmm.
getting your
Yeah.
take on how things are going for me and
Hmm.
be
Well,
helpful.
I wish you well in creating these new social connections, and fingers crossed for a type of work that would nurture that, nourish that for you.
Thank you. Yeah. I might need to do a little like another month of this. I think, people have their people for the summer and then when students go back to work and so on.
In
But I'm applying
September.
for some
Hmm.
teaching jobs that will start up at the end of August. And then but and I'll see about the bookstore world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can manage maybe both. We'll see.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel it out. Feel it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for joining me here, Lucy.
of course, my pleasure.